Hello, how is everyone doing on Facebook, Twitter, and even YouTube? I am also running a Twitch stream. Today we have Anais with us from Grist, the VP of product. So, how are you doing, Anais, today?
Good, good. I'm excited to talk about Grist. It's my favorite thing. So,
Of course, your product means you are emotionally attached to the product in certain extent
hmm
because I came back, I mean, my background is product. And
hmm
I can totally understand that sometimes we get tunnel vision, we get like really deeply integrated into the product itself. Otherwise, how we are going to improve it, right?
right.
So it requires that emotional connection. So who else is online? Say hi. I am looking forward to your comments, guys.
I'm,
Ah,
I'm waving silently at the comment section.
yeah. So this is I am Tallboy. He has his own tech show, and he covers a lot of things that is going on CES for last 10 years or maybe 8 to 10 years. So he is
Mm.
also a great guy in technology, but he covers most on technology products, consumer
Mm.
products. On my side, I love software. I love SaaS, and I came from the background of software development
Mm.
since 90s. So there's that. So guys, our audience, today we have Anais, who is the VP of product at Grist. And she's not only that, she has worked in healthcare industries, AI-based healthcare industries, and investment funds in US. So that's a lot of knowledge to put into one head. Welcome to the stream, Anais. And
Thank you.
you know, so
Mhm.
anyone else is here? This somebody said hi, and I have no idea who is this. So let me go and check. Um, all right. Okay. So we can start. So Anes, you want to go and do a little bit of storytelling of this product because I know at least 2 years about Grist.
Mhm.
And as we have previously discussed in our, I mean, backstage discussion, that there were certain things I felt and etc. etc. So why not you go ahead and tell the story because you have been deeply integrated with the product itself. Please take the mic.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, what motivated today's live stream? It's a recent announcement about. So we just released this week AI formula assistant in Grist, but that's not helpful unless you know what Grist is. So we can take a few step backs and talk about what Grist is. So Grist is a relational spreadsheet that takes data management to the next level. It helps you build a database from your spreadsheets and build productive layouts. So, to build your own data tool the way that you want to build it on top of that database without writing any code. But, like with all spreadsheets, one of the trickiest parts is learning and using formulas, which is why we released the AI Formula Assistant, which we'll get to. Um, but so about the history of Grist is really trying to bring the best of spreadsheets, which is the flexibility and the familiarity. A lot of people have worked with spreadsheets to a database, the structure of a database. That really makes a lot of things possible, keeps your data well structured, and also makes it easier to integrate with other tools. Because one of the things about Grist, from a sort of mission and vision perspective, it's we want it to be the best tool for working with data, but for all users across the technical spectrum. So if you don't know code, no problem. Grist helps you build a database and a data application layer on top of that for your whole team to work with that. And if you do know code and you're the IT department who's responsible for reconciling all these different teams' data, it's in this database structure. A Grist file is a SQLite file. You can easily connect it to other things. You can also host it on your own infrastructure. There's ways to self-host and even integrate it with your own login systems if you do that. So it's really sort of how do we make it possible to work with your data without having to be a database expert or without having to be a software developer, build a simple interface for interacting with your data that's good for people who don't know code, don't want to learn it, or people who do and want to be able to really extend what Grist can do. Okay.
Oh,
Should I just
thank you,
share
thank
Grist?
you. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this will explain a lot more when we
Visually.
go to show and tell because
Yep.
you know the whole world is about entertainment industry. So we love movies, we love Hollywood, and everything that is going on there. And there is certain things going on that we don't like, but I don't want to talk about it. So, uh, but the point of that was that yes, we will go into show and tell, and that will answer most of the questions that what can be done. It is actually a no-code tool and maybe low-code tool, in my understanding. So it can expand and scale up according to your needs. But at first, you need to imagine what you want to do. The most important part is if you do not know what you want to achieve, then you wouldn't know how to go about it. So Grist will be the driver for that part that I want to do this. How am I going to do about it? So Grist will do that part. Okay. So
Exactly.
we are going to do some show and tell. So Anais, you have two screens shared.
The first one, I think it's the same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, the same window. Okay, this is just the website to give you an idea. To Verhani's point, exactly. One of the things about Grist, I think I saw a comment about the learning curve. Mostly, I would say, with my experience, it's really just the mental model. How do you go from spreadsheets to building this layer? So I'm just going to walk through some templates, and then we're actually going to do that together in a few minutes. So we have a large template gallery. There's over 60 templates there that you can use as a launching point for building something, which really helps get you over that initial, how do I go from spreadsheets to this data tool that helps me look at it. But the reason I wanted to start with the inventory manager is because here we have something that very much just looks like a spreadsheet. We have all of these products, the brand, the product, all of this information that if anyone has ever done inventory management in a spreadsheet, you probably have something that looks like this. But within Grist, we have these pages here, which is just different ways to view the data that you have. So maybe I have a simple way to add a product where I can click on a particular brand name, see a photo, see all the different variants, like by color, and then how much I have in stock for that particular variation. So it looks like I have none of these, but I have a bunch of them in black, right? Or maybe I can see orders that have been coming in from my customers, outgoing orders to my suppliers, and all of this, it's really built on, just to get a little peek, I'll go faster in the other templates. But when we go to raw data, we can see, I would say like in Excel or Google Docs, this is like your sheets of different tables. This is really your data. And then you can view this data, link it together. It is relational in these dashboards. So that's really the first part when you're going from spreadsheets to Grist to wrap your head around. And really, once you get that, you understand a lot about Grist. Okay, so and all of this was built with no code. All of these dashboards, this clicking, this linking, doesn't require knowing any code. There are some formulas in here, so you do need to know how to. It supports spreadsheet formulas or Python formulas, but that's also what the Grist AI assistant helps with. So we'll do that towards the end when I get there. It's also great for collaboration, real-time collaboration with your colleagues, but in particular, it helps with different permission levels. So for example, this is a sales commission dashboard. And if you've ever had to do this with salespeople, it's very common that like the admin in the finance or accounting or like the owner of the company, they see all the information. They see things like everyone's sales, everyone's commission. So here I can click on a particular rep, look at a month, see their sales that month. And then they might have a dashboard where they see like all of the sales over time, all of the sales in a particular year. They might see the lifetime revenue by customer, but then they have to like make copies of this where their sales and the reps can't see everything, and the reps only fill in some information and they have to reconcile it, and it's a cumbersome process. Well, with Grist, you could write rules that limit who can see what down to each column or row. So everybody's working on the same document, but only sees what they need to see. So this is already set up, but let's say I was going to view it as one of those sales reps like Harry. So we'll see what he sees. So this is like I'm seeing it as if I were him. So I'm testing these rules that I had created. So here, I want everyone to see this leaderboard. So I left that there. So they can, a little competition, who's selling the most. But Harry can't see the details of other people's commission amounts or the details of exactly what they sold. He can just see their monthly totals and compare it that way. And over on the right, remember there was those charts with those summaries, sales by customer, sales over time? You can't see that at all. So that's the kind of stuff that Grist makes really helps for like team collaboration, because instead of having a bunch of different spreadsheets with different levels of permission that have to get reconciled, and that means that nobody knows what anything is until the one person who reconciles it, you can just have it all in one database in Grist. And then on the low code side, the extendability, there's we have these things called custom widgets. We have some pre-prepared, like there's a map, there's this invoice, there's a notepad, but also you can build your own. If you do know some front-end code, you can connect Grist to your document and represent your data however you need to do so. So an example from our forum, we have a community forum where people showcase stuff that they've worked on or ask questions. It's a good place to ask questions too. But somebody, he's supporting a team of researchers in a lab, and they are used to seeing things in a grid that's a very particular grid with vials, and then they just sort of toggle things between like green or red depending on research results. He just rebuilt that in Grist so that when they input their data, it's basically the grid they're seeing. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff if you do know some code, and that's the extendable side of Grist. Okay. So something that might be relevant to this community is we have this software deals tracker. You love software deals, lifetime deals, maybe annual deals sometimes. So this is just a quick template to track that. You click on a particular deal, you see some details about it. Maybe there was a code involved, maybe not. What's the plan that you're on? Every company has their own plan name, so you keep track of that. How much did you pay for it? And then over time, you're spending on all of this. How many did you buy? What was the total cost? How much did you spend for a lifetime deal? Annual and free didn't cost anything, but how many free deals did you get? That's nice to know. How much are you spending by category? How many do you have that are active, inactive, or that were refunded? And then there's this view here. These are old dates. I'm going to do an example with more recent dates, but basically what's expiring in the next few days or what's already expired. What's interesting about this one is that this is actually just one table. It's really just this spreadsheet that is supporting all of those views. So it's a great way to wrap your head around that data layer and that view layer that I was talking about in the beginning. This Grist doc tour is actually just this. All of our, it's just a tour of the document. Anyone can build this document. So if you want to then introduce this to the rest of your team, how to use it, you can build that. But that's not part of the actual data. And this symbol here, these are pivot tables that you build in Grist based on a spreadsheet that you have. So the reason I wanted to walk through that is I have here that table that we just looked at. So say you had this in Excel or Google Sheets, you imported it to Grist this way. I'm just going to take a few minutes to build parts of that dashboard, and then we'll use the AI assistant to calculate expiration and see how the bot does. Okay. So really quickly, we already have this table here. One of the things that we saw, if we come back here, it's when you click on a particular category, you want to see it in a card because it's easier to read, so you don't have to keep scrolling forever. So in that case, I just want to add another widget or another view to this existing page. I want a card. I want that same data. It's the only data I have in here. And I want it to select by what's already here. So now when I click, it updates. Now it's just a matter of hiding, unhiding, and moving things around so it looks the way that you want it to look. So I could just show, there's this over on the right is where you configure a lot of things. So if I want to do a quick hide, I can just keep these and then hide everything that's selected, for example. And then it hid that. So that's how easy it is to start to build these productive layouts, where now it's easier to just come in here and add something in this more form-like card. Or maybe on a new page, I wanted to look at those spending totals. So this summation icon is how you do pivot tables or summary tables. Maybe I just want a total of the whole table. So it's just how many deals do I have in total, no breakdown, and what was my total cost? And it's as simple as that. And as I add new deals, this will update. The 25th deal that I add just gets added here. I don't need to refresh anything. I don't need to change anything. Don't need to update any ranges the way that you might in Excel. Or maybe I want to do that same thing, but now I want to see my breakdown by the license. How much did I spend on lifetime deals versus annual ones? So maybe I want to do that. Or maybe now I want to see a chart. So it's the same thing. I want a chart, and I'm summarizing it by the category. So it's that same breakdown. So here, it's going to break it down by that category. And then a pie chart would be nicer, in my opinion. What I'm interested in is the count, not how many I have. So this is just to show you that without writing any code, you can get really far in Grist. And all of this that I walked through very quickly is covered, except maybe charts actually, but summary tables, pivot tables are, in a Grist Basics tutorial we have now in product, which if you saw Grist 2 years ago, last time we did an LTD, we didn't have it. Basically, I can just open what it does. It's, I'm gonna open it real quick. It's this big card, you can't miss it on your account, which is this Grist Basics tutorial. And what it is, it has some sample data for you to work with, and it just guides you through all the basics of working with Grist, including creating the relations and the dashboards. So we have some sample data here, and then you can click through. You can see I've been clicking through it. It remembers your last place, but you can, it has an introduction, teaches you a lot of these things, going from the basics and building in complexity. And it's all the no-code side. Okay, let's get to the AI assistant, because that's the exciting thing. So one of the pages that we had here was basically a quick alert on things that are expiring. So let's build that by building formula columns for expiration. So I'm going to make this on a whole new page. Again, we're just dealing with one table. So only the annual ones have an expiration. The lifetime deals don't, because they're forever. So some of these have an expiration. So let's come in here. And we want to find out whether or not something is expired. So you're going to notice that what I'm going to do before I use the AI assistant is I want to name the column, and I want to set the column type. Why do I want to do that? Because one of the advantages of Grist is because it's very structured and it's like a database. There's this code view that most people may not look at, or they might, but basically it's what's my structure? What are my tables? What are my columns? What is the type of column? Is it a text? Is it numeric? All of this context goes to the AI to help explain your data. So it's not giving the actual values within the cell. It's just sort of the overall structure, which provides extra context. And the more you can tell the AI about the context of your document, the better it's going to do on its first guess as to what you want. Because if you've seen spreadsheet formula bots for traditional spreadsheets, normally you need to specify rows and columns. You don't need to do that in Grist. Plain language works. So what I want to do in here is I just want to make this a toggle, just yes or no, so that I'm helping the bot know I want a true or false here. I could also phrase my question. That's the best practice, is phrase it in such a way that's a yes or no. But so yeah, I'm just going to format this to a little switch. So now we're going to get to the bot. It's really simple. I hit the equal sign as a shortcut to start writing a formula. And right in here, it can just either enter the formula or use the AI assistant. So here's the AI assistant, formula on the top, chat is on the bottom. So let's ask it. Let's say, is trial expired? Let's see what happens. And if it doesn't get me exactly what I want, it's a conversation. So in fact, I know it won't. I did this on purpose, because here's what I expect. Sometimes it gets them, but here's what I think. What I think it's going to do is not account for lifetime deals, and then just be like, I don't know what to do. There's no data there. So it's being a little slower than usual.
So somebody also surfaced a question: how is it different from Airtable? So I think there's a lot of things so Airtable will win in a different aspect, which is integrations, right? So every other product is integrated, having connector to them. But if you were looking at extendability, means reprogram it, right? Like how you have shown a few minutes before. That will be much more different than Airtable itself.
Yeah. This has to be on the OpenAI side, I'm guessing. They must just be getting a lot of requests. Yeah. This connects to ChatGPT, so we don't have a lot of control on that aspect. If you've ever used ChatGPT, you know how sometimes
you can just refresh and redo this. I think should be fine.
Yeah.
So intermittently, there is always a connection issue with OpenAI.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me actually. I was gonna actually try to see if I could figure it out, but maybe I'll just do it here and hope that this time it goes faster. So that's the one thing we don't have a lot of control over. When I did it just before the stream, okay, so it's faster.
So it takes few milliseconds. Yeah.
Yeah, if OpenAI is handling the request quickly, right? But yeah, so there it was very quick. That's usually the speed I'm used to. But so if you click apply, you'll see how preview. That's what I was expecting. Notice how when it's
Mm-hmm.
blank, it doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
what to do with that. So I wanted to show the conversational side of it because once you see that pattern, you can see it is doing it correct. That is expired. That is not expired, right? So then I can say something like, great. If there is no expiration date, return nothing or return false. It's a true or false. I could also do
Mm.
return nothing. It'll figure it out, but I'm going to help it a little further, right? But you can see I don't need to specify exact column names. In fact, I
Yep.
said I'm using the word trial, and this is actually called deals. It can figure it out based on the
Yep.
context of your document. So apply this, and there we go. So that's the nice part of the conversational aspect. Okay. Okay. I saw some questions, but we'll get to that in a minute. And there's a question if it's GPT 3.5 or 4, it's 3.5.
It doesn't really
I can
matter
just answer
actually.
that really quickly. There it is.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
we are not here to use formula editor for writing articles. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
there's a completely different scenario than what we are talking about. Yep. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. We'll do one that's slightly harder and then we'll call it. But expiring soon. So this is I want to now see things that are going to expire within the next like 15 days or so. So that maybe if I want to get something refunded, I don't miss it, right? So it's also going to be a simple toggle column. I'm going to do the same thing. I like the switches. So the what I'm doing here with the formatting is for example, would be like a simple text box, like a checkbox. But I like these switches. I always use the switches, but that's personal taste. So I'll do these switches, and I usually like giving it a little bit of color. Let me give it the same so it's visible on white. So let's try now. Let's use let's give something a bit more complicated. So now I want to say, will trial expire in less than 15 days? So I'm not even saying from today. I'm just going to see how it does without specifying much more. Plain language. Okay, so let's apply. It returns Python formulas. It's not returning. So we're the spreadsheet functions. So same thing, we can see with lifetime deals. I could have just done it in the first one since I kind of anticipated it would do that. But it seems to be also, let's find out. So here it's doing this one correctly. August 7th is expiring soon. But it seems to also be counting things that already expired. So we can just correct it. We can say, so close. I always do a little conversation. I had fun a couple weeks ago when I was testing it, making it talk like a surfer dude the whole time. So it was like totally sick. It was very fun. So it does all that stuff ChatGPT does as well because it is ChatGPT. So I'm going to say, not sure what that's benign. So I'm going to say so close. If there is no expiration, return nothing, and then if don't count already expired. Let's see what it does. As you can see, I didn't come pre-prepared with what it would be because that's not great. People copying and pasting something they already tested a bunch isn't super convincing. There we go. So the ones that already expired, it's no longer counting. Only the ones that are expiring in the next 2 weeks. Looks good, and I can save that. So that's the great part of the chat aspect of it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show. We can open it up for questions.
There is not so many questions, but there are some common ones. For example, that can you embed the table or chart on a website? So,
Yep. So you can.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yep, you can embed a Grist page, which could be just one table or one chart, right? So you're in control of what's in the page. You can embed Grist pages on websites. If you look in our documentation, there's an embedding section that talks about it. It's in an iframe.
All right. So you can do it, Andy. Now, Tallboy, Corey, his name is Corey, but his main handle name is I'm Tallboy. So he wants to know more about the templates. Maybe we can just quickly go through the number of templates that is available.
Sure. Let me actually
Because
I'll do it
in my understanding, now the number of templates are so good, and it can apply to multiple type of businesses, even the small business, even e-commerce
Yeah.
business, or online services, or whatever it is, it can
Yeah.
apply.
Let me view this on my personal, because I view it as myself. There's a bunch of other stuff, but so I can hide some of these things. But so basically, this is the tutorial I was talking about, the Grist Basics tutorial. You can see it from your site, or you can find it in our templates. And then we have templates broken down in different categories here. So you can look through. I think last count there was like almost like just under 70 last time I counted.
Mhm.
So there's a bunch of different ones here, and some of these were actually just made by users because they felt like helping us out. Like somebody
Yep.
was using Grist to manage like church volunteers and things that were happening at a particular church. He built it, he liked it, he gave this to us. You can tell which ones were done by users because when you click into a template, if it's your first time visiting it, there will be this tour that pops up, and if like
Mhm.
this one, so it'll say Grist user so and so built it. And if they shared it on our forum, there'll be a link to the forum link. And then there's these tours that walk you through how to use a template. Like, what does this page do? What do you do? And some of them, like you can see, have extra links just in case you need to know something extra. But yeah, so there's a lot of different templates. And sometimes if we get enough people asking for the same thing, we might build one, or we might point you to resources on,
Actually,
this is the structure
actually,
you
there
need.
is a large scope that people are missing. Um, you can be community driven, means you can have community templates, which you are
Mm-hmm.
just showing, right? This is an
Mm-hmm.
example of community templates. So when
Yeah.
somebody makes something useful and they think that why not I share with the community, they can just submit to you, right?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then you guys can verify that okay, it looks good, so why not
Mm-hmm.
we add it in. So
Yep.
yes, there is a community aspect behind it that helps, exactly like Notion. So if you notice why Notion is so popular, it is because you can create certain things, you can even sell those things, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean the templates.
Mm-hmm.
So it can open up a different aspect of this product, means
Mm-hmm.
somebody is getting expert on Grist to create solutions for people.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going with
Yeah.
this? So
Yeah.
it can become a
Mm-hmm.
business for those individuals to provide a Grist-based solution, accustomed
Yeah.
for the end user or the customer
Yep.
base. So I would say, I'm Tall Boy, you can go and have a look from getgrist.com and check out all the templates, because it has a preview and it tells the story what it does. You can see that
Mm-hmm.
if there are charts and how the flow is, and there is a lot. This is what actually amazed me when I revisited it after quite a while, and this is this took my attention at the very beginning, that
Mm-hmm.
there is a huge number of bootstrapping items. So what I mean by bootstrapping item, that you have ready templates which you can tweak, add a new field, change the color, then it's yours. Then you can start using it for your own business, for your own purpose. So whether you want to keep track of SaaS tools or not, the template is already there. So either you can start using it as it is, which will fit your needs, or you can just fine tune it a little bit. You want one extra field, or you want to keep an image, up to you. So, bootstrapping it to make it faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there is another question. Uh, Sorry, Pamela, I will come back to you because I need to give an introduction for you specifically.
I know Pamela.
Yeah. So I'm coming back to
Yeah.
her.
Hi, Pamela. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Nuno
Yeah.
is asking that is there a map view?
Yeah, there is.
I
We
think
have
I
a
saw
really
it.
simple, kind of
Yeah.
silly map, but it is a widget that's already there when you build a custom widget. Um, so this is a custom widget, and what this is doing is it's plotting these points over here. We actually just made even more improvements to this. It is something we've been working on because it is used quite a bit. So it's interactive. It plots different points. When you add a custom widget, there is here it's custom URL. You could just make a custom URL to one that you built yourself, but we do have some that are like pre-made. Map is pre-made. This template just predates when we added it here. But like there's a markdown widget, there's an image viewer from like URL, an HTML viewer, video player, printing, mailing labels, all kinds
And
of
even
stuff.
a pivot table. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah, so we have summary tables, but this was because somebody wanted, like, when you have like the cross
Yeah, yeah.
tabulation, they
Mhm.
wanted a different style. So somebody built it. That wasn't us. That was a user. So one of the things that's great about
No,
Grist is,
that's the thing. So these
yeah.
pivot tables will be very, very useful. Those who are doing e-commerce accounting. So I know because I did e-commerce and I'm in e-commerce startup before, and I know exactly where this came from, like who will need this. So I'm going to highlight
Mhm.
Pam's question because I think Pam. She is
Mhm.
not only a fan, she is a super fan. Just to tell you
Mhm.
that part,
Yeah.
she is super fan. In fact, the early
Mhm.
adaptation of Grist, the person who enticed me to go into it is two person. One is Joe, and another is Pamela. And Pamela was hands on. So
Mhm.
this is her question. I will not uh, make her wait for. So this is her question.
Yeah. So I'm actually not familiar with what Google Looker is. What do you mean
Oh,
by that? So
so
what is
so
this
Google
exactly?
Looker is basically Data Studio. So they
Oh, I
changed the
see.
name to Looker, and it made a
I
whole
see.
lot of problem for everybody else.
I see. Yeah, I know it as Data Studio. So I didn't know they changed their name. Okay. In terms of integrating it, native integration, we don't have a native integration for it. It would be through a third-party integrator like Zapier, Pabbly, Maker, all of those are supported, or using the API. In terms of adding more native integrations, that might be somewhere down the road. But right now it's through third-party integrators, and we have a bunch. Yeah.
So I think this is already answered. Ankit, you missed it earlier. Yes, you can add it on the website either using link or you can also iframe it.
Yep. And
So
and
I,
one more
I
thing.
go, yeah,
Oh,
you are
with
saying
the
something. Sorry.
iframe aspect, something that when people wanted to look more like their brand, a little bit more white labeling, and in a portal that they already have, because Grist can be self-hosted. Like there's a use case I know of where they have it embedded in a tool that they've already built. They have their own portal for their customers. They integrate the customer sign into Grist with the ones they already have. All of that's possible because it's open source. So if you are a bit more tech savvy, then you can do
Yeah.
quite a bit.
So now we are going to go into the tough questions. So thank you,
Okay.
David. This is the type of questions I really love to see. So this is from David.
Mm-hmm.
He is very, very aware of the LTD community and deeply integrated, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah, this is his question.
Yeah. So yeah, it is the standard library. At this stage, it's the standard library and use cases that involve statistical analysis. Um, yes, though if you're asking about like more like SQL queries or like the whole table, that's not quite supported yet.
Okay. So my friend Alberto Oliveira is also here, and of course I know what is he going to ask because I know him so well. So
Mm-hmm.
let me show the question that he is going to ask, and he already asked.
Mm-hmm. No WordPress plugin now. It's not on our roadmap anytime soon, if I'm being honest. Although it kind of has come up in conversations, but it's very mysterious. We're actually trying to do something else with browser, so stay tuned for that. I guess I can give you a sneak peek on what we're looking at, where we're going. We're experimenting with a way that you can open any CSV in Grist, even if without putting it in Grist first, just from a website. So you know how you can just open and preview a PDF in browser? What if you could do that with like CSVs that are on websites somewhere without having to download it and open it somewhere else? So there's some cool browser things we're doing, but there's it just feels like something that's missing. That
So
we're
for Alberto,
tinkering with.
I just wanted to say because he also mentioned that if it is possible to integrate with Flowmatic. So Flowmatic is an automation plugin for WordPress, and I think Flowmatic already support all the types of APIs. So if we can authenticate I'm not sure Grist is using bearer header or some other kind of authentication, then we can actually authenticate and grab back JSON data. So I don't think at that point you would even need an integration in that manner because Flowmatic already supported. So while we're on this, I'm not sure who asked this question, but does it have webhooks, stacks? Stacks. I'm not sure what stacks is. And
Yeah,
connect
it does
with
have
Pebble.
webhooks. It does have webhooks. There's a simple webhooks UI. If you go into your when you open a document, in the settings on the bottom right, there's a place to manage webhooks, and it does connect with Pabbly and Zapier.
Right. So there is that. So that actually opens up all the opportunities because LTD community they will be using Pabbly because of lifetime deal, and a lot of
we added Pabbly because of the AppSumo LTD. We had Zapier, and they were
yes,
like, "You must add Pabbly," and we did it before the
correct,
LTD was
correct.
over.
And that is why that Zapier, those who are outside the LTD community, they will be using Zapier. And of course, webhooks already give you the flexibility. So if I'm talking about Flowmatic from WordPress, I can just call the webhook and get the data. I don't even need to call the API because the webhook is already there. And Alberto has another. So somebody else also asked, any plan to integrate with Go High Level and ClickFunnels? I'm not exactly sure what is the context of this question, but maybe you can think of something. I'm actually not sure of the, yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen for people who use things like ClickFunnels, and for what I know about ClickFunnels, you should be able to integrate it using a third-party integrator like Pabbly. No native integration, if that's what the question is.
Mm-hmm. No, I also want to highlight. So the more integration you are going to make, the more complexity will come into the product. Means right now you're thinking about this product. Now you have this component that you have made, webhook. The another component is API, another component Pabbly, right? Means you have to, every time you're changing the product, all these things need to be rechecked that if they support it properly. So usually what I prefer, if there is webhook, it actually solves most of the problem. And and somebody asked, Alberto asked, is this very similar to Power BI? I don't think it is in that manner, but please, if you can highlight this.
Yeah, I would agree that I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a replacement for Power BI. It shares a lot of functionality. Like if you don't need, like if you need some simple charts, if you need summaries, analysis, that part Grist can do well. Where Grist really excels is the data workflow and the data management side of things, and keeping your data organized, relational, familiar without writing any tools. So it does have some of the things that Power BI has, but if you're a Power BI super user using a lot of those features, it wouldn't be a replacement.
Okay, Alberto, you have your answers. So the next one, and can we directly add data into ManyChat or MMIO? So MMIO is another LTD tool, mostly for marketing, but they also support webhooks and stuff. And which I'm trying to understand the question. Can we directly add data into? So in my understanding, if you have webhook, if you update something, there will be an event going out, right?
Yep.
So then ManyChat or MMI or whoever that is, they can catch the event and do whatever they want to do. So this is interesting. Actually, I was thinking about it a few days back, and he already suffered this question. So basically, he's asking, is there a MySQL connector that he can actually use or just connect to MySQL database?
So in terms of connecting to a database that's already there, you would have to use like a script or an API to do that. But if you import the data directly into Grist, you can build that nice UI. Though I will say, because of all of the formulas and the more spreadsheet-like aspect of it, there's a technical limit to the number of rows. So it's not going to be as big as a MySQL database. So the rule of thumb, it's about 100,000 rows before you start seeing performance issues. That's usually we recommend So really, but it comes down to how many formulas, or really the complexity of formulas. If we have seen documents that have performance issues when they're not anywhere close to 100,000 rows, it's almost always one really hairy formula. That's all it takes, is one just inefficient formula.
Just
That's
one,
normally what slow it down.
just one slow formula can,
Yeah.
delay the entire thing. So that is most of the questions. I was looking forward to see whether David has any more questions or not, because his question is more in line at how I am thinking of these things. And so there is another question. I'm not sure how this will.
Yeah. So we had a couple users who were heavy StackB users who then came over to Grist. I'm just going to repeat what they said to me, because that's basically, what their experience. So what they liked about Grist was the layouts, and I think compared to Airtable as well, the drag and drop layouts where you can dynamically link things, and you can link things even to a summary table. So you can link summary tables to each other. Like, there's a lot of complexity in what you can build in the layout that I didn't get into. But the layouts aspect of it is the big winner for a lot of people, beat StackB and even Airtable. And then Airtable recently came out with interfaces, but I think it's one table at a time. So it's still not quite where Grist is in terms of those
because
layouts.
So I still have my Airtable, and I also tested Base Row. I'm sure you know about it, and NocoDB. So they are still very, how to say, is unpolished product in that sense, because it's open source. And most of the open source product, what happens is that there is no dedicated UI designers. So the developer, they can code really good, but then when it comes to UX, it kind of falls down from there. So this is what happens to a lot of open source products.
Yeah.
So Pamela has something to say. Don't use StackB. Yeah, of course. So I'm using Readable as well, but I'm using it in more of the manner that quickly I need to put something on a table and show it to people. So I'm using it in that manner. There is no complications. It's just a flat table. And for that, Readable it looks good, but nowhere near to Grist is not. It's just table. It's just one single table at a time.
Yeah.
She's right. I'm checking if there are any more questions. So I wanted to say at the same time that, so we have 3 special LTDs, right? So there is 3 special LTDs in this giveaway, in this live giveaway. So I'm going to explain a little bit how I actually do this. So you will see a lot of people is doing wheels, which I have did before. And, sometimes it feels good, but it's also not viable, not for the product and not for the end user. Let me explain why. Because a random person come to the stream and they get to win a very limited capacity LTD. For example, Grist. So Grist is giving these 3 LTD. You cannot have these in there. They don't have these LTD for sale anymore. Means they are only MRR product, but they are willing to do 3 special LTD for us. Thank you for that. And at the same time, I use AI depending on how good is your questions during the stream. So I will collect everything, everyone's comment, and I will review myself and the admins. Then I will use AI to formulate who are the actual people, those who can win these LTDs. So this is not something random. This is not something we just picked. It is based on the value. Even the value is the tough question that you have asked, because that is how product grow. If you do not ask tough questions, the product will not grow. So, yeah. So let me see if there is a lot of comment all of a sudden. Yeah, Tolboy, you have to go to getgrist.com and, get yourself familiarized with the templates, because each template have their own details. And Yes, readable is a flat table. So it doesn't have pie charts. It doesn't have all those fancy things you just saw. Is there any limit when data get deleted from inactive document? Okay, this one you can take.
Yeah, we don't prune inactive documents. The only thing we prune at this stage is the backups. Like we do automatic backups and snapshots. So I think on a free account, it's like the last 30 days, and on a pro account, it's like the last 3 years. The backups might get pruned, but not the document itself.
Okay, so sorry, Pamela, I missed your earlier question. So here it is. Will you talk about so what she asked earlier? She made it shorter. This question. She asked earlier that how is the health of the company in terms of MRR or ARR?
Yeah, so the company's been growing. We've had a good year in terms of revenue growth this year. We've hired more people on the marketing side to help with that aspect of it as well. And what we're hoping is in the next 6 to 8 months, going and looking for a round of funding. So we're feeling good about it. But also, I think I've said this, Pamela, before, the company's doing well. We don't plan on going anywhere, but it's also open source. So you're not dependent on how we do as a company anyway. That will always be there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Which?
niche? Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually really hard to answer. One of the things about Grist, you can't really market something as a multi-purpose tool because then people are like, well, is it for me? But that's kind of what we're seeing, right? So really, yes, we have e-commerce on there, we have marketing agencies, but also quality assurance at manufacturing. Just things that were defective or come back. A lot of that's handled in Excel. Now they're doing it in Grist. Education. There's a university, a community college that uses Grist to teach like Database 101. They have a lot of projects in there. I've actually talked with educators. It's the summer, so educators are doing their lesson planning, and I've talked to 3 people in the past month independently who asked, like, can I do this for curriculum mapping? Law firms. We have law firms that are using Grist for matter tracking and invoicing as a CRM. It's kind of everywhere.
You mentioned something about nonprofit also, right?
Yeah, nonprofits use Grist as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have nonprofits that use Grist to manage projects as a CRM, or just for their day-to-day work. So yeah, it kind of is everywhere.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the stream, Mabel. So she got a question that where is the data stored?
Yep. So the data, it's AWS servers in the US. If you look at our support, if you go to support.getgrist.com, our help center, there is a data privacy section that goes into detail about how data is stored, who has access to it, which is really no one unless you add us as support. We can't see your documents, and other questions about that. Or you can always self-host and store yourself.
Yep. So I'm going to explore that. I was talking with you earlier in the backstage that it really piqued my interest, and I'm like, okay, let's go and get a VPS and what to do next and put into Docker. So so this one, can we add add-ons in it for specific functions? How do you mean?
I think I sort of know. Like you want to be able to create a button that when you click, it does a particular thing. People have done this and they blow my mind. Yes, but I don't want to overpromise. It does require extending Grist. They've done it like through custom widgets. Yeah.
Okay, so David, I have another question. Other thing, so he was talking about the granular, the access or the editor permission. Maybe I go back to the share screen.
Sure. Yeah.
You can show it live. I think that will be great.
Yeah. So I had shown, I don't know if David saw the sales commission one where, so I can explain just a little bit more what's happening here. So I'm just going to let me walk through it. I don't know if for people who join late, it'd be useful to do this anyway. So here I'm looking at this as the owner, the person who has permission to see everything. I have sales reps. I click on a sales rep. I can see their sales. I can see the summary of how much they've sold, breakdown by month, those individual sales. I can see the sales over time with the revenue by month, year, sales by customer, lifetime value, all of that, and also who the actual customers are. So if I create particular access rules, I can limit who can see what. So I'm going to view this as one of the reps, as Harry. And I can show some other examples, but I just want to walk through this one since I already. Why did that happen? Oh, I know why. Sorry.
A
Remember when I
different
logged in as
profile.
myself? I logged in as myself previously to not show some stuff. I just got to log in back as the owner
Yeah.
of this document. That's what I did. I swapped my login. This is problems you won't have because you won't have a million accounts tied to Grist with a million sites. So you're not going to have this problem. This is a problem that's particular to people who work here. So I'm doing this as Harry. So Harry, he can't see certain things, right? There's pages, the summary pages, like the pages that had revenue by month or revenue by person, by customer. He can't see those, and he can't see the details of what other people have sold. What I do have Harry see is just the overall revenue because it's a leaderboard. We're making them a little competitive. So I'm basically with these rules, I can limit things based on, I can limit a column, I can limit rows based on values in that rows, or it's not just limiting whether or not you can see it. You can also edit whether or not you can edit it. So we have a customer who, what they do is they have a toggle column. When something is archived, everyone can read it, but they can't edit it. And that's based on whether or not something is true or false. And it's just for that row. So this row, if it's not archived, you can edit it, but this row, if it's archived, you can. And the other thing is, let me show, there's a table here called reps. And this table called reps is tracking everyone's email that they log into Grist with and whether or not they are a manager. Because in the rules, I can make it that when I saw this as Harry, Harry couldn't see everything. But let's look at it as Larry, who's a manager. So it's a combination of things. I'm saying when somebody logs in, look up their email and then apply certain rules to that. Oh, but if they're a manager, there's an exception. So it can get really granular. So if I look at this as Larry, we can see Larry can see everything because he's a manager. So he's not limited the way that Harry was. So you can get really granular down to who each person is, what is in the rows, what are the values, what are the tables, what are the columns. It's really granular. It's my favorite part, personally. I think it's super cool.
So I think I want to add in something over here. So this is not only granular control, this is also mind game. So let me explain. So which part is the mind game? So I am I'm Harry, and my boss is Larry. Now, in Grist, it shows censored. You know how I feel as Harry? I really feel like Harry. So the pain, right? That I see the text censored, but I can't see behind it. It is a mind game to reach higher. So
you could do it that way, or I could just have hid the entire column. Then he doesn't even see the censored
exactly.
cells.
But you should not. You should not, because
You don't know.
it should give them a mind game that you still can reach higher stage and see this data.
Yeah,
right?
If you want to. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And this is why I loved it, because I know you can just tune it not to show. But then the fun will not be there. The mind game will not be there. So yes, it works especially in the sales teams. I can tell you this. If it is a sales dashboard, and if there is somebody underneath you who cannot see certain numbers, and they will go mad. They will go to the extent that how can they see this data? So previously when I worked in e-commerce, let me tell you a little bit of story. So the sales team, because I have access to all the data, right? As product and tech, we have access to all the data. We can just query it. Now the sales team have this issue. So we build a dashboard for them, just specifically like Grist. We didn't knew Grist existed, right? So that is 8 years back, right? And these sales guys will keep on come to me, bring me to buy coffee, and all this sweet stuff. And I'm like, guys, what do you want? Just tell me, no need to buy the coffee. But they will do that because they want to know that number behind that censored column. So that's my part of the story. Sorry, I took so long.
Yeah. You mentioned sales dashboard, and then it reminded me that I have access rules on this template as well. So as just another example real quick, owner can see everyone's deals. Owner can see all of the contacts. These are my reps. I have Chris, Lucy, and Marianne. But if I go and I view it as Marianne, You can see Marianne can only see her deals. Marianne can only see her contacts. There's no censored data. She just can't see certain things.
Yep.
So yeah, it can get very granular. Yeah, I like it. So,
Yep.
mhm.
So Ankit asked, can we create forms for data input? So I think this will be quite a common factor that people want to use it in this manner. Means they will have a website form or embed form where people go and fill up their data, joining an event or whatever, and at the back end it fills up the table.
Yeah. Yeah, so right now we don't have native form support, though we just started talking about it again as a priority we're going to do soon. The way that people do it now is they connect a Google form or a Jot form using Pabbly to Grist. We've even done it for our own user surveys, and it works just fine. And what's great about
I
it
can
is
give you another idea, Ankit.
Mhm.
So what you do, you install WordPress and you install Flowmatic, then you connect with the webhooks. So every time you Fluent Form. So when Fluent Form submit a form, you send it via the webhook in Grist directly.
Mhm.
So you can even bypass the middleman, which is
Yeah.
Pabbly.
Yeah, you could do it exactly. But you can connect other forms to Grist right now. In terms of native forms, we don't have it yet, but something we've been talking about.
So Nuna also asked, is there an easy way to use Grist as backend and also frontend for a directory? I think I know where he is coming from.
Mhm.
Maybe with a card widget embed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't recommend using Grist as a backend solution directly to a website or a web app because the API key method isn't really appropriate for web use because it could be accessible to a viewer. Like it's kind of so it's not like the best authentication method for that. But if you have, I'm trying to think of how it's basically if you self-host and you find other ways to connect it, you can. But using our API key isn't super appropriate for a backend.
So Pamela actually already replied that the permission is super granular. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can set limit on every single cell if you want.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only tool I have seen that can do this. That's correct, actually.
Yeah. Also, something I didn't mention about access rules, it really is rules. It's logic. So you know how like in Google Sheets, if you protect cells, you have to change the range. You're not doing that every time you update data. As more data adds, the rules are added to the document. The rules just apply. That's one of the things that's really nice about it. Mostly Google Ads and social. Are we in front of customers at events? No, but we should be. If you know events we should go to, please tell us. I would love that.
No, you should connect with him because he is an events guy. I mean, most of the time I'm envying him that he's on this flight going to CES and whatnot, and I'm sitting here sucking my thumbs. So
yeah, I will go to these events, please. If you have
yeah,
good
so he
recommendation.
knows all these things and he's connected with all these medias as well.
Mm-hmm.
And David also said, "Yep, sounds great." I think he likes that it is granular because at certain level you will prefer the granular control or even logic based control. So you put in the formula and it will follow that for longest period of time without any errors and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think the questions that is all for now. Let me just go through one time. I'm not sure. I think his name is Voginder Kumar. Is mobile app available?
Yeah. So I'm still screen sharing. There isn't really a mobile app, but I'll just show you what happens when you look at it on mobile. So if I were looking at this like on an iPhone, what happens is the widgets just sort of collapse. You can click to expand them. The pages are over here and the creator panel is here. So it still works on mobile browser pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, that is really good. I didn't expect this. Seriously, because table-based things, right, is one of the toughest thing to work in mobile. Like, I have had so much headache with this before.
Yeah, so you can hop around. I have a few documents that I use pretty much exclusively on mobile personally, and it's fine. So yeah. But yeah, it isn't a separate mobile app.
Makes sense. So guys in the audience, thank you for joining. I hope you get your questions answered, and thank you so much, Anais, to go through so much detail on these. Even some of the things I just discovered and is pretty epic.
Yeah. Grist, it's very deep. Like you scratch the surface and it just keeps going.
No, I mean, the difference 2 years back and now is so much. There is so much things put into the system. I can still remember what I was trying to do, and I was going blind kind of thing. That is 2.5 years back, at least. And today I looked at it. You shared the screen, and it is so much different. So much different. Thank you so much for this session, and selecting the 3 limited giveaway for this show. It means a lot for our audience. And Pamela, I know. She is talking about these
I love
non-stop.
Pamela, Grist super user. It's great.
Yeah. All right. So I guess here it is about 11 p.m. I guess it's 11 a.m. in US. And yep. So we can call it a night from here and have a wonderful day there. Thank you so much, our audience. Okay, the last comment.
Please do. And feel free to ask questions. We have a forum, or you can create GitHub issues and add feedback there. There's a lot of ways to talk to us.
Yep. Thank you, David. I know, because he is pretty much detailed. I mean, what I do, I observe things. So sometimes you will see I'm not talking, I'm not engaging or not commenting. The only reason I'm looking at what everyone else is doing. That is my entertainment. So that is how I figure out who is the techie, who is the nerd, who is the other type, who is the sales guy and everything else. So I know how to talk with them.
And thank you for saying that, David. I'm going to share it with the engineers. They're going to love it. So with the rest of the team. It's technically in New York City headquartered, but the team is fully remote. So I'm in Michigan now. I moved. Yeah. So fully remote.
Yep. Thanks, Andy. So Andy is also very deeply rooted in the community, and he is in Malaysia. So he has the same time zone as myself. Thanks, Andy, for joining. I wish Nilesh would have joined, but I think it's too early for him in Canada.
You mentioned there's someone who always asks about languages. I think Grist right now is in 12 languages.
Yes. Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah.
There is a question.
Oh, okay.
There is a question. So before we... So many chat. Okay. Yeah, somebody asked how many languages supported.
I think it's at 12 right now. The reason I say I think is it's all volunteer translators. And if you want, and so can you basically, if you want to translate Grist into another language, we have a way for volunteers to do it very simply.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And that's the easier way, actually. That should be the correct way of doing it.
Yeah. So you can volunteer to translate Grist.
Nice. There's benefit of being on open source land, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Anais, let me give you a crowd.
That's fun.
All right. Yeah. Audience didn't, and you get the bigger one. All right, guys. Good night from here. Have a wonderful day there. Robin is out from here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.